I think maybe where we should start is, what do people get wrong about aging?
There is a pervasive myth in this country that aging is an inevitable decline from the vitality of youth down some slippery slope to frailty, where we spend the last 20 years of our lives dying. But the fact of the matter is, we actually can be healthy, vital, active, joyful. But people think that they have to go down this slippery slope and that there's nothing they can do about it. But the fact of the matter is, there's so much we can do to pre-plan our future.
I am so excited for this conversation because already what you just said makes me think about getting older differently. And it makes me think about my aging parents differently because, you know, I think we've all had that experience, whether you see your grandparents or you see your parents and you have that feeling where you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
They look so old.
How did that happen?
How did that? They seem so frail. So I love this quote of yours. We don't get old because we age. We get old because we stop moving. What does that mean?
So, you know, if we step back and look at our bodies, I think nature is very conservative. If we were designed to sit still night and day, we would not be designed with our strongest muscles below our belly buttons. We would be sessile like a mushroom with this giant stalk and all the good stuff on top, right?
But what does sessile mean?
So, you know, Jabba the Hutt had this, you remember from Star Wars, this guy in the bar?
Yes.
Had this giant blubberous appendage he kind of laid on.
Yes.
Mushrooms have this giant stalk, which doesn't go anywhere, right? So if we were meant to be immobile, we would have been designed like one of those two beings, but we were not. We were designed with the strongest muscles below our belly buttons. We have two legs. What is the first independent skill we ever learn? Walking. It is human nature to move. So what is unnatural, Mel, is not continuing to move. What is unnatural is not moving.
So are you saying that one of the reasons why our parents and our grandparents and we start to age rapidly is because we're not moving?
I think that when you look at the statistics in our country and somewhat around the world, that 50, 60, 70% of people do no intentional movement a day. So we get up, we get dressed, we get in our car, we go sit at our desk for 8, 10, 12 hours, get in our car, sit in traffic for 2 hours. Then if we're lucky, we get 8 hours of sleep. If you add it up, we are probably like a mushroom in one place 20 hours a day. That is not what we're designed to do. And so all of that sedentary living that we're doing, because by nature, our organs work better when we're moving, when we're flexing our muscles, when our bones are being pounded, we age due to lack of mobility.
What I'm really excited about is we have so many conversations on this podcast that, you know, I'm 56 and I'm constantly sharing to the 20-year-olds in my life. I think this is one where if you're in your 20s or your 30s and you're listening to this, you're going to be sending this to your parents and to your aunts and your uncles as this gigantic shift around how to think about aging. And so, Dr. Wright, that brings me to this other question that I have. How does the way that you think about aging shape the way that you age?
I love that question because I think that what we do too often is, and I always look over my left shoulder when I do this and say, oh my God, 25 was so amazing. Okay, well, 25 was easy, right? But let's think about that. At 25, I don't know what you were doing, but I was still going to school. I had no money. I was still going home in summers to live with my parents. And we're worshiping that. When I contend to anybody listening, and I may have come to this late, I admit,
How old are you?
I'm 50, I'm turning 58 on Saturday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I may have come to this late, but now I would say from 48 on, I am the most authentic, the most indefinable. I get to choose. And that comes from the confidence of experience that I could not possibly have had at 25. So I'm not saying anything against I have a 17-year-old, I have all the way up to 36-year-olds and children in our blended family. It's a wonderful thing to be young. But if we are so stuck on the past, we will never, Mel, be able to pivot, literally pivot our brain and our bodies towards the next 50 years. Because the reality is midlife for men is about 37. For women, it's about 40.
Hold on a second. Midlife for men is 37.
Yeah, the life expectancy for men in this country is 76.4. So half of that, you don't even think that you're aging yet, right? But if you really pay attention, and how could life possibly be over at 37? How could it possibly be over at 40? And yet if we don't pivot our mindsets, that's essentially what we're saying.
Well, and there's so much that you're about to share and shift in terms of the way that we think about this. Because if I am reading between the lines, when you refer back to being 25, when you don't have everything figured out, it's a very challenging decade. We as a society obsess over youth. Mm-hmm. And now the medical industry is obsessed with, for women anyway, anti-aging.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about today is how to use all of the research and your experience as an orthopedic surgeon and as a doctor who has been seeing patients, you're in a clinical practice, how to actually change the way you think about aging so that it changes the way that you think about your health and what's possible in your life. And when should you start to think about this?
I want to backpedal for 2 seconds and pick up on something you just said. For women in this country, it's all about anti-aging. If I do nothing else in the next year or so, I want us to pivot that narrative because it's part of mindset. When you think of, in society, men growing older, we assign the word longevity. It's like legendary. It's about legacy building. It's about reflecting on being distinguished. For women, we have assigned this word, whether it is in literature, whether it's in our conversations, whether it is in the products we smear all over, anti-aging, as if, Mel, it's a problem. Aging is not a problem to solve. Aging is the most natural thing we do from the moment of conception to the very last minute of our death. It is the most natural thing we do. It's how we age that matters. And so I think to circle back to your question, in my career, it has always been my goal to change the way we age in this country. And we cannot do that if we don't believe it's possible. If I am going through life thinking, oh, when's the next shoe going to drop? I'm just getting older every day. That is not a hopeful perspective. I believe there's never an age or skill level when people cannot change the trajectory of their health.